Good afternoon, welcome back to my normal channel, and I'm Bruce, and this is another Bali COVID-19 update for February 14th, 2021. And let's get started. First, the numbers as usual, and today they were pretty low, 156 new cases, 30,286 total positives, 26,553 recovered, 801 deaths, and 2,932 active cases. So active cases have come down as well as new positive cases. Good news. Yesterday, however, the new positive cases was 312. So the numbers are still going up and down, although they're tending to be lower. So that's positive. Is this over? Have we come? Last week people were talking about, oh, we're about to turn the corner. Still doesn't look like we're turning the corner yet, but this is better than it was a couple weeks ago. And you can take a look at these graphs. You can see we're still way up here on the graphs. Okay, let's think positively and say that things are getting better. Maybe that's related to the decision that was made about opening up Indonesia for foreigners, and I'll get to that in a minute. First, let's take a look at the numbers again. 154 of the 156 were local cases, 2 were domestic tourists, and so that's down again. By Regency, Denpasar 32, Badung 30, Gianyar 26, Bangli 23, Klungkung 12, Jembrana 11, Tabanan 9, Buleleng 7, Karangasem 2. So that's where we are with the numbers. And what about the vaccines? Well, I'm going to have something about a change in the vaccine priorities in just a minute. But independent vaccines. So I talked about the independent vaccines last week, and I was reading a couple of articles today, and the links are down below here. One of them specifically said independent vaccines did not mean we're going to have them out for sale for everybody at this point. It means that independent vaccines are being bought by companies for their employees. So what about for those of us foreigners who are living here? Are we going to be able to buy the independent vaccines at a doctor's office, a hospital, pharmacy? No word on that yet. So if you're concerned about the vaccine and you are here and you don't want to leave, hang in there. We'll see what's going to happen. And my oldest daughter, we've heard about before, the nurse, she's taken 2. She's had her double dose, and she says she's fine, no problems. And so, well, that's good news for Dad, but good news for all of us as well. No reports of really bad reactions yet that I've seen. Okay, so let's go on to what everybody's interested in, which was the major topic of social media this week for Indonesian, for Bali. Is Bali, well, and it has to be Indonesian, not just Bali, is Indonesia open for foreigners? Now, you remember that the 8th was the date that this ban on foreigners was supposed to end, and so everybody was waiting, and on the 8th there were constant messages, any word yet, any word yet, any word yet, and immigration didn't really put anything out until the morning of the 9th, and it was confusing. A lot of people were confused about it, and something new came out, and websites over the week, the immigration site with, there's, what is that called? Instagram and the website and Facebook are up and down. They were off, they were on, they were off, they were on. Okay, so all that's over. And yes, people can come in now again. People are here. People have been flowing in from what I understand. And so we're kind of back to where we were before they put the ban on foreigners coming in. Who can come in? People with key-tops, and people who had already been issued visas, but then were not allowed to come in. So those are the business visas, basically an e-visa. You're now allowed to come in, and so people have been doing that. And it seems like pretty much this has been running smoothly from reports on social media. And you do have to have a test before you get on the plane, and you do have to quarantine for 5 days in Jakarta, and then you have to quarantine for 14 days when you get to your destination. That's a self-quarantine. The 5 days in Jakarta is not a self-quarantine. You have to go to an approved hotel and get some testing done as well. And the hotels seem to be pretty lax. Some people have said, oh yeah, we can go downstairs and we can get stuff. Other people, no, we can't. GoJet and different food delivery services have been delivering food, and so it doesn't sound that bad to me, depending on what your room is like. But if you've got internet, TV, cable, and you've got all the food you want, and you can smoke, well, 5 days. And so, what do we got here? Yeah, so anybody with visas already issued. It seems that offshore visas for people that are not here and do not have visas already, are not being issued at this point. Now there's talk about there's going to be an update tomorrow from immigration. Tomorrow is Monday morning, and so we'll see what happens. But at this point, no new visas are being issued except for specific cases, emergency cases, humanitarian cases, people that are in vital industries. So if you want a new visa, if you want to apply for a new visa, not yet. But who knows? Check on the Instagram and websites for the immigration department and see what they're going to do. Now, some good news here is, well, I think it's good news, is people have been coming in through Jakarta, right? And I just, as I was just about to start recording this, news article popped up that Yogyakarta, the international airport Yogyakarta, has been okayed for being an entry point during the COVID-19 era, and so you would be able to fly into Yogyakarta rather than Jakarta. You have to go through the same process. You have to have all the same documents. You have to do 5-day quarantine in a hotel. But I would much rather stay in Yogyakarta than in Jakarta, even if it's just in a hotel. I like Jogja, and so they're getting ready. It's not open yet, as far as I know. According to the article, they're in the process of getting everything together, but that could be really soon. And so, good news if you're flying in. If you could get in through Yogyakarta. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So it's open. What do I think about that? Well, I think it's too early with the numbers the way they are, and considering that the government has been complaining for the last few months about foreigners not wearing masks, not social distancing, not behaving, not paying fines. I don't see why they want to bring more foreigners into Bali now. But I guess it just comes down to money. I don't know. I'm not part of the government. I'm not privy to their thought processes, but it seems to be a bit early. But it's done, and so good luck. If you've got the visa and you're coming in, pretty smooth. A couple of places there were glitches. Qatar, apparently some people coming in on Qatar had some problems. They wouldn't let them on the plane. So yeah, but that's the only bumps I've heard of. Otherwise, things went pretty smoothly if you have all your documents. Okay, vaccination priorities next. So originally, Indonesia said that they're going to vaccinate people from 18 to 59, working age population, because, and I discussed this before, they get around more, and so they're more likely to contact the virus, they're more likely to spread the virus. There was a lot of pushback on this, because leaving out the old folks. And so Indonesia is revising and preparing to make the vaccinations available to people over 60. Okay, now I'm significantly over 60, but I'm not an Indonesian, so I don't count here. So this policy change occurred after the Indonesia Food and Drug Control Agency declared that the coronavirus vaccine, the CoronaVac made by Sinovac, is available for emergency use with the elderly. So they've okayed it. And Indonesia currently has 29 million doses of the Sinovac vaccine, with 1.63 medical workers given the first priority, and medical workers that are over 60 are at the top of the list. My daughter was telling me about that yesterday as well, so that's working. Because of the higher incidence of comorbidity conditions among the elderly, Indonesian health officials will be proceeding with caution in distributing the vaccine to the elderly patients. Elderly people with cardiovascular diseases and diabetes will be closely monitored for adverse effects. And by immunizing the elderly, Indonesia hopes to relieve the burden on hospitals that are overwhelmed with COVID-19 patients. The majority of them are over 60, and 47.3% of people over 60 that are infected in Indonesia do not survive. That is pretty spooky. So, I get the vaccine, my chances are 50-50. If I get the virus, my chances are 50-50. Okay, and what's next? Indonesia. Oh, this is an interesting one. Our new Indonesian, the new tourism and the creative economy minister, Sandiaga Uno. He's coming up with all sorts of things. He's a busy guy. So, according to him, Indonesia is going to be offering incentives for international visitors who wish to stay long term. This will come in the form of a 5-year visa. Okay, and what about that visa? Don't expect something cheap, because it ain't. I'm quoting him here. The concept is a long-term stay, a second home visa for a 5-year term. They make a deposit of US $142,000 approximately, so 2 billion rupiahs. I think you'd probably be going by the 2 billion rupiahs per individual, or 2.5 billion for a family. And they can invest, do business, and work. And these visas are renewed every 5 years. Now, I read this in English and in Indonesian, and the word is deposit, make a deposit. So I'm not exactly sure what that means. Does that mean that they're paying for these visas? That much money, or what? So I don't know. But let's go on. Sandiaga's communicated this program with the Law and Human Rights Minister, and the purpose is to enable international tourists to stay long-term in Indonesia, especially in Bali, in order to aid it in recovering from the economic crisis here. Sandiaga, plans to target business owners and travelers who are willing to stay at least 3 or 4 months. Okay, now they're going to get a 5-year visa and they're going to stay 3 or 4 months, especially to escape the cold winters in their native countries. And so he's not just talking about people staying here all the time, living, like I do and other people do, 24/7, as a friend of mine likes to say. He's talking about people who, this is their second home, so they're going to go back and forth. Maybe they live in, well, Australia's not really that cold. Let's say Sweden, and so it's winter in Sweden, and they come over here and they spend 3 or 4 months, and then they go back to Sweden. They've got this 5-year visa. He added that foreign visitors would also be able to work under this visa. Now, it didn't say what kind of work, I don't know, and manpower would be involved in that, the manpower ministry. He added that this program could potentially reduce the amount of illegal foreign workers and digital nomads in Bali. I'm not sure how that's going to work. How would this, we're talking about 2 billion rupees, so somebody's got to put up 2 billion rupees to get a 5-year visa so they can work. And this is going to stop illegal workers and digital nomads. I'm not sure how. That's pretty iffy, I think. He's currently working out requirements for the program with the concept of having Bali seen as a second home. I suppose that would be in some marketing materials. And he noted currently there's a potential for 1 billion global citizens aged 60 and over with an income of more than 15 trillion US dollars. So, boy, this, I read a couple of articles on this. It just seems like all over the place, this plan. People are going to work, but he's talking about people over 60, retired, and you're gonna put up all this money. I don't know what happened to the digital nomad visa that he was talking about in the past. That seems to have disappeared. Talk about that seems to have disappeared. So I don't know. We'll see what happens in future, I guess. Right. Okay. And so don't count on that anytime soon. If you're coming in on one of these business visas and you're not really a business traveler, they're apparently still, well, I don't know, because if they're not issuing offshore visas right now, are they going to make a change to the B211, the business social visa? What's going to happen there? I don't know. Let's see. So stay tuned next week. Now, foreigners in Bali, the good and the bad. Now, I've reported on a lot of bad behavior from foreigners, but it's not just, there are a lot of foreigners doing really good things here. A lot of organizations that foreigners have started or taken part in, and I'm going to talk about one in just a minute, but there's also been bad stuff. And here's a new one, where on the bad we go first. The bad one, Interpol fugitive escapes from immigration detention. Now this was listed as an escape in detention, but actually when you read the story, the headlines are kind of sensational. So he was a Russian fugitive. He was on the Interpol list, and he was in the immigration office in Nurai. According to the head of information and communication at Nurai, Pak Putu Suhendra Tresnabita, the fugitive ran away during the process of transferring him from Special Class 1 Immigration Office, Nurai, to the Denpasar Immigration Detention Center, because the Nurai was full, and so they had to move him. And he was able to flee during this somehow, with the assistance of a female colleague. And so they're both, you see here, they're both on this wanted poster. And so somehow they snuck out during this administrative process. And so be on the lookout. Okay, so, more bad stuff here. But good news, okay? Am I going to end up with this? Yeah, I'm going to end up with this, with some good news here. Japanese model collects donations to help Bali community. Okay. Now, as I said, there's been a lot of people have been donating money, sending money to families, individuals that they know, that they've come comfortable with over the years, and I think that's great. People need help now. A lot of community organizations, the government has been giving out free food. They don't get enough credit for this. People say, well, what are they doing? They're doing stuff. If you read the local papers, you'll see different government help giving rice, giving noodles, giving oil. So there's work being done. Let's get back to this. So a Japanese model who's visited Bali in the past and was happy with the culture and the wonderful way she was treated, has been collecting funds to help Bali during the pandemic. She said, "I want to help the people of Bali during this difficult time by handing out some rice and food as a return for what I received in the past." Her name is Masumi. Masumi's raising funds on the internet through an official site as well as through her Facebook page, and she hopes to raise 200 million rupiahs. She plans to return to Bali in April to learn Indonesian. And when I read the English version of this, okay, it was pretty, it was like this part. When I read the Indonesian one, the original that was done in Indonesia, it was a lot different. It starts out, the headline says, a beautiful model. A lot of Indonesian stories about actresses, models, always call them beautiful. Even female criminals. This beautiful female criminal. And a lot of the Indonesian article had to do with her taste in men, things that she does, what kind of man she likes, what she's looking for in a man. Pretty funny. She plays sports, badminton as a hobby, and she also plays the piano. She has dreams of holding a piano concert at a big hotel to raise more money in the future. And the article noted she doesn't have a boyfriend, but she's looking for one. But it could be Indonesian or Japanese or somebody else. And she has her preference. She likes tall men. She's 160 centimeters tall herself. And so good news. I'm laughing because these Indonesian news stories can be just hysterical sometimes. Okay, and so that's it. If you're coming to Bali, stay with the program. Wear a mask, social distance, right? Be a positive part of what's going on here, not a negative part. Remember, you're a guest. Indonesians are our host. And be kind to someone today. And for my Chinese and Korean friends, Happy New Year. I hope you had a great weekend. And, well, I'll see you next week. Be kind to someone today.